This is the Liaison podcast with Izzy Park, and today's travel show is about how Amsterdam's waterways transform sunlight into shimmering masterpieces that paint the city anew with every passing hour. Amsterdam in winter, a journey through canals and culture. Picture this. You're gliding down a canal at twilight, mist rising off black water that perfectly mirrors the glow of 1,000 amber street lamps. Bicycles stream past in silent choreography, their bells creating a symphony you didn't know you needed. The air smells like rain-soaked brick and stroopwafels warming on a street cart. Through a cafe window, you catch a glimpse of Rembrandt-era paintings hanging casually on wood-panelled walls, locals nursing tiny glasses of Geneva like they've got nowhere else to be. This is Amsterdam in winter, moody, magical, and utterly unlike anywhere else on Earth. Here's the thing about Amsterdam that nobody tells you until you're standing there, slightly drenched and completely enchanted. This city trusts you. It trusts you to make your own choices about pretty much everything, while simultaneously offering you some of the world's greatest art, most stunning architecture, and deepest cultural sophistication. It's this wild paradox of a place where you can spend your morning standing before actual Vermeers and Van Goghs, then cycle through frozen canals at sunset, then discuss philosophy with a bartender in a pub that's been serving drinks since the Dutch Golden Age. And the city just lets you do all of it without judgment or pretense. The winter months transform Amsterdam into something beyond the party city reputation it can't quite shake. When the tourist masses retreat and daylight shrinks to just a few precious hours, the city becomes this atmospheric wonderland that feels like walking through a Rembrandt painting. Sunrise doesn't happen until 8:30, and by 4:30 in the afternoon, twilight's already settling in, which means you get these extended golden hours where the light does absolutely bonkers things to the canals and cobblestones. The rain comes frequently but gently, adding to the cinematic quality rather than ruining anything. Can we just talk about the bicycle situation for a second? Because this isn't just transportation, it's a complete social system, a cultural identifier, a way of life. Everyone cycles here. Executives in suits, artists hauling canvases, people somehow texting while holding umbrellas while steering through traffic. There's this balletic precision to how an entire city navigates by bike that you have to see to believe. And once you rent one, which you absolutely should, Amsterdam's logic suddenly reveals itself. The city's built on concentric canal rings that radiate from the centre like ripples on water, and cycling these rings becomes this meditative, magical experience where you're constantly discovering hidden courtyards, unexpected bridges, cafe-lined streets that look unchanged since the 1600s. The museums here aren't just world-class, they're world-defining. The Rijksmuseum houses Rembrandt's Night Watch in a space specifically designed around it. And standing before that massive canvas, you realise you're looking at a painting in the same city where it was created, in a building that honours its cultural weight. The Van Gogh Museum takes you through his entire evolution, from dark Dutch beginnings to those vibrant, swirling French landscapes that changed art forever. And here's what's brilliant. These aren't stuffy, intimidating spaces. Locals actually go to these museums. Young Amsterdammers meet friends there. Students sketch in the galleries. People genuinely engage with the art rather than just photographing it and moving on. But the real Amsterdam reveals itself in the brown cafes. These darkly lit pubs with wood-stained walls, candles on every table, and windows steamed up from centuries of conversation. They're called brown cafes, partly from the tobacco staining of decades past, partly from the rich wood interiors, but mostly they embody this untranslatable Dutch concept of gezelligheid. It's coziness mixed with conviviality, mixed with belonging. This feeling that you're exactly where you should be, warm and safe while winter does its thing outside. You'll sit there, nursing a beer that arrives in a small glass because the Dutch prefer steady drinking across hours rather than rapid consumption. And somehow you'll end up in conversation with locals who speak flawless English and possess this trademark Dutch directness that's refreshing once you adjust to it. The architecture tells Amsterdam's story in brick and gable. Those narrow canal houses leaning forward aren't drunk. They're deliberately designed that way, with external hoisting beams that let residents move furniture without banging interior walls. They're tall and skinny because taxation was based on facade width, so merchants built upward instead of outward, creating this distinctive silhouette. Each gable style indicates a different construction period. Step gables from the Renaissance, neck gables from the Golden Age, bell gables from later periods. Walking residential neighbourhoods like the Jordaan feels like time travelling through centuries, except there's a modern coffee shop on the ground floor and street art on the canal-facing wall. Amsterdam's famous tolerance isn't about being a free-for-all party town. It's about this deeply pragmatic Dutch philosophy that individual freedom and collective responsibility can coexist. The coffee shop culture exists nowhere else with such sophistication. These aren't just places to buy cannabis legally. They're social spaces with distinct vibes, knowledgeable staff, and regulars who've been coming for years. Some play jazz, some feel like cozy living rooms, some attract a creative crowd working on laptops. It's all remarkably civilized and completely normalized, which is perhaps the most interesting aspect.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
The Indonesian food here rivals anything in Southeast Asia, a legacy of colonial history transformed into culinary excellence. Rijsttafel, rice table, brings you dozens of small dishes that create this symphony of flavours. Sweet, spicy, tangy, rich. You'll find tiny storefronts in de Pijp or Oost neighbourhoods, where locals queue for takeaway, places tourists would walk past without noticing. Street food culture centres on herring carts throughout the city. Watching someone demonstrate the traditional eating method, lifting the fish by its tail and lowering it into your mouth, is entertainment before you try it yourself. Fresh stroopwafels from market stalls arrive warm, the caramel middle softening perfectly. And those Fabo automated walls dispensing hot snacks at 3 a.m. represent such a specific slice of Dutch pragmatism that you kind of have to experience one, even if it's objectively bizarre. Albert Kuip Market stretches through de Pijp neighbourhood like a river of commerce and culture. Cheese vendors offer samples of aged Gouda that taste nothing like what you've had before. The Noordermarkt on Saturday mornings brings organic farmers and artisan producers, locals shopping for the week while catching up with vendors they've known for years. These markets pulse with the rhythm of actual Amsterdam life, away from tourist crowds concentrated in the centrum. When night falls, which, remember, happens around 4:30 in winter, the city transforms. The canal lights flicker on, their reflections creating these perfect golden ribbons on dark water. The electronic music scene here operates at a completely different level than most cities. Former churches and schools and warehouses host nights where the music matters more than the scene, where sound systems are taken seriously and DJs are genuinely respected for their craft. Places like De School or Shelter don't open until midnight and run until breakfast, attracting locals and knowing travellers rather than stag parties. The Amsterdam Light Festival transforms the canals into an outdoor gallery during winter months. Artists create installations specifically designed to be viewed from boats or walking routes, using the water and architecture as part of the artwork. Gliding through dark canals while illuminated sculptures float past creates this dreamlike experience that exists nowhere else. Hidden throughout the city, you'll find hofjes, hidden courtyards originally built for religious communities or as housing for the poor and elderly. The Begijnhof is the most famous, but dozens more hide behind unmarked doors in residential neighbourhoods. Step through an anonymous doorway, and suddenly you're in a peaceful courtyard surrounded by tiny houses, gardens, silence. A complete escape, despite being steps from busy streets. The Dutch directness takes adjustment, but becomes refreshing. When someone says maybe, they mean no. When they give criticism, it's not personal, it's practical. This extends to how Amsterdammers socialise. They schedule everything. They value reliability over spontaneity. They appreciate honesty over diplomatic dancing around subjects. It's cultural difference worth understanding rather than judging. Amsterdam Noord, across the IJ waterway, has transformed from industrial wasteland into creative district within the last couple decades. The free ferry from Centraal Station delivers you to experimental venues, street art murals, the striking Eye Film Museum that looks like it's about to slide into the water. This is where young Amsterdammers actually hang out, where rent is slightly more reasonable, where the creative pulse beats strongest.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
Cycling along frozen canals during those rare cold snaps when ice forms thick enough for skating reveals Amsterdam's secret identity as a Bruegel painting come to life. The entire city emerges onto the ice, old and young, locals pulling out skates kept specifically for these occasional winters when everything freezes solid. Church bells ring across water turned to glass, and for a few magical days, Amsterdam becomes medieval again. The Anne Frank House offers profound testimony to the Holocaust, preserving the secret annex where she wrote her diary. It's genuinely moving and important, though you'll need advance tickets and patience for crowds. But this is Amsterdam too, a city that faced occupation, that lost most of its Jewish population, that remembers and memorialises while moving forward. The Vondelpark in winter takes on melancholy beauty, bare trees and grey skies, creating atmosphere that somehow feels right. Locals still cycle through, still meet for coffee in the park cafes, still maintain their routines despite weather. It's this Dutch resilience and refusal to let conditions dictate behaviour that defines the culture. Portuguese synagogue, built in the late 1600s, survived the war intact and still operates with original brass candelabras holding real candles. The Westerkerk Tower offers city views and marks where Rembrandt was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave after dying in poverty, despite creating masterpieces that now define Western art. We hope you enjoyed the trip. You can support the Liaison podcast by rating it 5 stars and pressing the follow button. And remember, one's destination is never a place, but rather a new way of looking at things.
Grep News. Thomas.